Hello, and thank you all for joining us this lovely Monday morning. I am Ian Epstein. I was recently elected chair of the Libertarian Party of Oregon. And at our recent annual delegate conference in Pendleton, we ratified a series of bills that have come up to the Oregon legislature that we've embodied under the title of Operation Groundswell. And these are a pretty good set of bills here that are consistent with the libertarian belief system of enhancing a personal liberty. I'd especially like to say thank you to Brian Boquist for his support of some of these bills. And for a bit more detail on what those bills entail, I'd like to hand over our meeting to Secretary Richard Burke.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning. As Mr. Epstein said, we recently had our annual business convention in Pendleton, Oregon, and at that convention, the delegates assembled ratified a legislative agenda previously adopted by our state committee. And the issues of this legislative agenda, the objectives, are to elevate the issue of individual privacy in the current legislative session, and also to promote some measures that will protect and enhance voter rights. I'll go over these very briefly. SJR 17 is a bill that is in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and what this would do would be to amend the Oregon State Constitution to create an explicit right of individual privacy. No such right exists currently in the Oregon Constitution, or indeed in the federal Constitution. The language of SJR 17 was originally taken from a similar line adopted in the Montana State Constitution. There has been an amendment proposed to SJR 17, which would rephrase the term right of individual privacy in such a way that it outlines specific protections. The reason for this is because the majority party has said that if we simply deal with the right of individual privacy, it could raise the specter of the abortion issue, and they don't want it raised. So the amendment, which has come forward, resolves that issue, and so we now hope the bill will move. SB 639 is another bill that we think is very important. What this would do would be to restrict the use of automatic license plate readers, devices that read all of our license plates and have the potential of being part of a information infrastructure that would allow the state, or perhaps other parties who have access to this information, the ability to track all of our movements. We think that this is a critical bill. We do not want the United States or Oregon to become the kind of surveillance state that exists in the United Kingdom. We believe that individual privacy is a right that is being constantly eroded because of the advances of technology. Libertarians do not oppose the advancement of technology. Indeed, many libertarians make their living in the technology industries. But we do believe that we have to take affirmative action to protect our individual liberties. HB 2300 is another very important bill for us. We've signed on with Representative Greenlick, and we have also communicated with the Cascade Policy Institute, which has promoted HB 2300. And although while this bill can be improved, it does facilitate allowing terminally ill patients to use drugs that have not yet been approved by the FDA. Libertarians believe that our bodies belong to each of us, and we should be able to make the decision as to what to put in our bodies. But beyond that, if someone is terminally ill, we do not think it is appropriate for the state to deny patients so diagnosed the ability to do everything they can to save their lives. These are the bills that we think are most important to promoting individual privacy and promoting individual freedom in the Oregon legislature. There are a couple of bills that we think are very important that will enhance voter rights. One of them is SB 707. This bill would require all political parties, both major and minor parties, to design, conduct, monitor, and finance their own candidate selection processes. Political parties are private organizations. They are not government entities. Even the Republican and Democratic parties, have that status. And minor parties have always designed, monitored, and paid for their own candidate selection processes. We don't understand why non-affiliated voters and third-party voters must be required to financially subsidize the candidate selection processes of the major parties. If we are to have equity among the parties, this is an important point. This also has relevance to the top two primary. Folks have said to me, Rich, why would the Republicans and Democrats ever want to give up the subsidy that they have in the primary elections? And my answer is the top two election threat. On 2 occasions, Oregon voters have been asked to approve a so-called top 2 primary initiative where anyone from any party could enter the primary and only the top 2 would proceed to the general election. Top 2 proponents have said that the big advantages of their idea is that non-affiliated and third-party voters will no longer have to pay for the candidate selection processes of major parties, and that all voters will have the same ballot in the primary election. If Senate Bill 707 is passed, we will have all of those advantages, and it will take the wind out of the sails of people in the future who may again promote a top 2 primary reform. So, in addition to that, it's just fairer. Why should any political party receive a subsidy for their own candidate selection process, especially if it has to be paid for, in part, by people who may be supporting their opponents? So we're looking for SB 707 to move as well. Finally, SB 656 would actually enable the Secretary of State to protect the rights of party members. There have been a number of situations, both in my party and in other parties, where people who felt the ends justify the means have unilaterally attempted to change how a party is organized and governed using means that are outside of the governing processes adopted by the members of that party. And so SB 656 would enable the Secretary of State to have more flexibility in protecting the rights of voters who are affiliated with political parties where their leaders have attempted to change the party's organization, membership, and structure outside of the adopted methods. So in all, these 5 bills make up the Libertarian Party's legislative agenda for the 2015 legislative session. We are working very hard in this session to promote the concept of individual privacy and also to protect the rights of voters. We'll be working with legislators in the days and weeks ahead to advance these bills, and we'll be working with members of the media in an attempt to elevate these issues. I also suspect that in the 2016 issues, these will be issues that will be important to many Libertarian candidates for partisan office. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.